Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I am really excited to show you a ultra powerful build that's gone kind of under the radar ever since Season of the Haunted. So obviously when Solar 3.0 was new, everyone was jumping into these different Solar builds and trying out new things and finding some really awesome and powerful combos. But some of those combos have kind of gone a little under the radar since Arc 3.0 came out. And of course, because everyone's jumped to specific metas, no one's really trying some of those old things that were good and still are good, because they've kind of just been forgotten. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you a awesome build that I've made that will utilize the Rain of Fire Warlock exotic boots with fusion rifles, because that's what it works with. And basically the goal of the build is to become completely unkillable in almost every circumstance, in PvE and in PvP as well. It's a little harder to do in PvP, obviously, because you have to really be shredding to achieve what I'm going to be showing you in this build. But if you're really good and you know how to use fusion rifles properly in PvP, not that that's difficult to do, then this will work just as well over there as well. So let's get into this. Okay, so Rain of Fire. Basically, what this does is that when you use your Icarus Dash, it will auto-reload your weapons. But also, when you get kills with fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles, they will make you Radiant for free. This works on any subclass, but I am going to be using this with Solar today because we're going to be, becoming unkillable. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. But basically, any fusion rifle kill and any linear fusion rifle kill on any enemy will make you Radiant for as long as your fragments will allow you. So, normally it's 10 seconds or 8 seconds, I think, but you can extend that and make it longer with fragments. So, yeah. And also, it'll give you airborne effectiveness with those weapons as well, but that's not relevant for what I'm going to be showing today. Now, for the loadout, your kinetic weapon and your energy weapon are kind of up to you, but I do highly recommend using Vex Mythoclast. Of course, if you don't have this because you don't raid or whatever, you can opt out for a solar fusion rifle in this slot and then run whatever you want in the kinetic slot, for example. But as long as you have Vex or a solar fusion, you should be pretty much good to go. The reason why Vex is kind of, the top choice and basically mandatory for this build is because it's a primary weapon, so you can go crazy with it and not have to care about ammo because it's infinite, and that's just great. So, getting into the subclass. This part's pretty straightforward, so I'm just going to skim through this. Of course, we're using Well because Well is completely busted, and it's also very good in PvP as well. So, always use this. Dawnblade or Daybreak is just, it's just awful. It's just trash now, so throw this away. We're going to be sticking with Well, and that's that. Now, as for your Rift, you can use whatever you like here. None of these are mandatory for the build at all. As for the melee, this is also up to you, since they do pretty much the same thing. It's just Celestial Fire has a bit more range, but otherwise these are generally the same and you can use whatever you want. Next up, we're using Healing Nades, because this is going to be the main source of being unkillable in the build. We'll get to this soon, but you will want Healing Nades, so throw those on. Next up, we've got Icarus Dash, and the only reason why I'm using this is for movement, and obviously for the Rain of Fire synergy, where I can auto-reload all of my weapons for free. So, yeah. Honestly, if you want to use Heat Rises, you can, but I do recommend using Icarus Dash, and it's also a lot more fun for movement tech. So, yeah. Then I have Touch of Flame. Now, the reason why we're using this is because we get a boost to our healing grenades. They get stronger, and what that means is that they will give us Restoration ×2, which is the same as Classy Restoration or pre-nerf Lorelei Splendor Titan Helmet. So, yeah, that's pretty much all it's going to do. It's just going to give us ×2 restoration instead of ×1, and that is obviously a very powerful form of healing, and because of the setup that I'm about to show you, we are essentially going to have infinite restoration ×2, which is incredible. So, for the fragments, this is where it gets crazy. First off, we are going to be using Ember of Empyrean. This is one of the best fragments in the game, and basically what it does is when you get solar weapon or ability final blows, they will extend the duration of restoration and radiant. So, of course, Vex Mythoclast is a solar weapon, and we are going to be getting radiant from Rain of Fire. So one kill with Vex Mythoclast will make us radiant, and at the same time it will extend the effects of Restoration and that Radiant that we will get from Rate of Fire and the Healing Nade. So you'll throw a Healing Grenade at the floor to start things off, you'll get kills with Vex, and that will make you Radiant and extend that Healing Grenade infinitely, as long as you don't let the timer run out. But by the time the time does run out, you can just throw another Healing Nade, because you'll have one back. So, you know, I mean, it's an extremely quick cooldown with 100 Discipline. 31 seconds. I do recommend 100 Discipline. With 31 seconds, that's a pretty fast cooldown, very easy to maintain. And of course, just getting kills with Vex is going to infinitely keep up that restoration anyway. So as long as you get those kills, you won't actually have to worry about throwing another grenade. That grenade is just going to sit in reserves until you somehow run out of restoration or radiant, which would only happen if there's nothing left to kill. Which at that point, you don't need restoration or radiant, because there isn't anything there to kill you. So, yeah. Now, of course, because I am tanking 10 resilience, I am also going to increase my resilience back up, because to achieve triple 100 in the stats that I will recommend very shortly, you need at least a plus 10 fragment to one of the stats that you want. But of course, because I'm tanking 10, I also need that 10 back. So that's kind of what we got here. This is not doing anything for the build. So if you want to swap this for the Discipline one, you can. But I already have the Recov one in here, because we are going to be using this for something later. So yeah, we're just using this for stats, basically. If you want to swap this out and you don't care about the triple 100, then go ahead. You can swap this for whatever you want. Otherwise, I do recommend having this. Now, next up we have Ember of Solace, which is going to increase the Radiant and Restoration duration by default. So normally it lasts like 8 to 10 seconds, one of those two, I'm not entirely sure actually. But then with Ember of Solace it will last 12 seconds, and that means you have 12 seconds before Restoration or Radiant runs out to get a kill, again, to extend those, which is perfect because, of course, as mentioned, for example, you have 31-second grenade cooldown, but you have 12 seconds to get a kill after getting Restoration or becoming Radiant to extend them, which gives you a lot more time to keep those up and get those grenades back quick to then, you know, cast more Restoration, which is a really nice loop and a really nice way of just becoming completely unkillable in pretty much all content there is in the game, because Restoration times 2, as we all know, is extremely powerful. And for it to last 12 seconds on a Warlock with an infinite way of getting that back very quickly, that is busted, really. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we have Ember of Searing, which is just going to give us a bit of melee energy back for when we scorch targets. This can be done through our melee, and it can be done through our super. It's mainly just here because I don't have a lot of strength, and the melee is quite nice to have. It's very valuable, and it's sort of a way of chaining those melees, so using a melee will scorch things, and that will give me melee energy back. So that's just a little bit of synergy there. There isn't really anything else you could put in here that's going to make that not worth it. I mean, you could throw in Ember of Benevolence if you wanted to, which is going to give you kind of similar ability regeneration. It's also going to give you a bit of grenade energy as well on top of that. If you apply Restoration or Radiant to teammates, which is obviously very easy to do in this. So, you know, you can do that as well. But, yeah, those are the fragments. That's the setup there. Let's get into the mods. We're going to be going down a pretty simple route. First off, we're using Elemental Armaments, which is when you get final blows with a damage type that matches your subclass element, which, of course, in this case, Vex and my Cataclysmic are going to match my subclass because they're all solar. Those two weapons will make solar wells, and with those solar wells, we will be fueling Font of Might, because having an extra 25% damage increase to both of these weapons on top of the 20% that we're getting from Rain of Fire is going to make them shred in all content even easier, and obviously this will fuel boss DPS as well with Cataclysmic. So that's just really nice. I do have Elemental Time Dilation as well, which is going to increase the effects of Font of Might, in that it's going to increase its time before it runs out. One Font of Might equipped, so just having this one on my chest piece, for example, will boost it from 10 seconds to 13 seconds, and then throwing in a second one, which is what we're going to be doing, will boost that from 13 seconds to 16 seconds. So we have 16 seconds before Font of Might runs out, or before we need to get another Solar Well, which is plenty of time. because that's also half of a grenade as well. And that means, you know, everything's just going to synergize together. We get more damage, we get infinite healing. It's awesome. And then finally, I have Explosive Wellmaker in here, which honestly probably isn't going to do much of anything. It's just kind of for environmental purposes. Like if I kill something with a bomb that's just chilling there, or a backpack or something, it'll make a Solar Well. Because of my slot management, I don't have access to Melee Wellmaker, for example, and I'm not getting my melees back fast enough for this to really work. And because I'm using healing nades, I can't use Elemental Ordnance because they don't do damage. And there isn't really anything else to make Solar Wells with. So I just threw in Explosive Wellmaker, and I'm just going to hope for the best. So that's basically it. That is the build for PvE, and that is all the fragments and the subclass and the weapons you want. So yeah, that's the build. Let me know what you think. And of course, I'm going to have some gameplay here showing off being, you know, invincible. I don't know what content I'm going to show this off in. It'll probably just be some basic stuff, because there isn't really much to show it in for, like, actual end game, because there are no champion mods for fusion rifles right now, unfortunately. So, yeah. Just going to show off whatever I can, and hopefully you enjoy this. Let me know what you think, and adios.
Enemy claimed Zone A. Zone A captured. You have zone advantage. Hold them. 2 for 1. Make that look easy, Warlock. Zone C captured. Power play. Keep the pressure on. I've seen enough. I'm calling this one. A well-fought victory.